I'm Pseudo.
I'm Angelica.
And this is Space Pod.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome. Here we are again. Thank you for tuning in. This is our Space Pod. Who knows what episode? We'll see.
700.
Wow,
We've really been banking them. We haven't slept.
No, we just keep doing them. We just keep chatting with people. Thank you guys for tuning in. We hope you guys have been liking our previous episodes. We have a very special guest this week. We're going to welcome PENNYWILD.
PENNYWILD. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
What's going on?
How are you doing today on this Thursday? Wednesday.
I don't know
Wednesday.
what day.
I know. Me neither.
These are finicky. You have to speak right into this guy.
Hello. Thank you so much.
Check.
Pseudo for that correction. No, I'm good. You know what? We're living in hell.
The best intro. We're living in hell.
Yeah, we live in hell.
With a smile on our face.
That's we make little quotes for each episode, so we're just gonna have your picture and then just put "We're living in hell."
We're living
People
in
will
hell.
have to listen.
But otherwise good, you know?
Hell yeah.
Awesome. So maybe we just start with how are you dealing with all of this hoopla going
That's
around?
a perfect word for it. Hoopla. I think I'm doing my best, as I think we all are. I think switching it up and like giving my day-to-day some variety really helps me. Not like kind of resigning myself to just doing one thing or focusing on one thing, and trying to stay productive, but then also forgiving myself if I just need to take a couple days and like binge a Netflix show, because you know, it's like we have to like have grace for ourselves during this difficult time.
100%.
So yeah, that's kind of what's going on. That's how I'm taking it. How are you guys taking it?
Well, I think that's just so smart, because that's the main thing I've learned too, is like we have to be easy on ourselves. And I feel like we're very similar with, we always like to be pushing ourselves. What's next? What can we be doing? Who can we be connecting with? And, you know, sometimes with all the weight of the world right now, my energy isn't there. So I think we've both been like very strategic with what projects we're going to take on and when we're going to be working. And instead of just like working every day and like slowly checking off goals, it's like, how can we be very strategic with what we are doing today, put our minds in, so then we can choose one day a week now to do absolutely nothing, or other days a week, and just like recharge, because that recharge is like so necessary now.
I mean, when you just said your energy isn't there, I'm like, you just launched a clothing brand. You guys put out 16 visuals a day. Like, if you guys even feel sometimes fatigued by this, then like that brings me some relief, because like you guys are just always out here working your hardest. And I feel like people always tell me that I'm a hard worker, and then when I hear that, I reject it, because I just am constantly looking at people that are doing even more, way more than I am, and I'm just always trying to like level up. And so maybe that's kind of like how you're feeling, is like I'm looking at you guys being like, what do you mean you're not sometimes you take breaks, you know what I mean? But it's all just super relative. And I mean, it's like without structure, it's really hard to create. And I guess as freelance artists and creatives, we've never really had structure. I mean, the only time I ever have structure is if I'm like doing a musical or something like that, where I'm in rehearsal, you know, like 10 hours a day, and just kind of grinding up until, you know, a specific date. But other than that, we just kind of make our own schedules. Yeah. So in a way, I guess it's kind of been nice, because it really allows us the freedom to kind of like take the full day to grind on projects, instead of having like social engagements or, you know, things we have to go do.
And take the downtime to actually have some downtime.
Yeah. You know? I'm still working on that. Yeah. Like, how do you know when to stop? You know, if you're just in your room working on your computer all day, and then like last night I was like, oh, it's 9:30. I guess I should like wind down.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Oh, that's a daily challenge for sure. Before we move past that and go on, what you were like, you know, throwing us some compliments. Honestly, I think Joe and I can agree that you were one of the first people out here, because we're in the dance world, and me and Joe obviously right away are already feeling like it's not fulfilling what we thought it would when we moved here. And you're in it, and it's really exciting. And then once you're in the like whole like mix of it, we start to realize like personally that we felt like we wanted to do more and have a lot more say and input, and we kind of felt like we were part of a big machine instead of like helping run the big machine and everything. And we looked at you and saw like, oh, she's dancing, but she's also DJing and she's choreographing and she's directing and she's doing all these things. And it's like, oh, people can actually do that shit. Like you don't have to limit yourself. You don't have to like choose a passion, because I feel like coming from small towns, everyone's like already like, oh, you're gonna go dance, like that's, but then they're like, you have to every day focus that, or else like you're not even gonna have a chance. And that's just like not true. And we found that over time, and you were one of the first people to show us like whatever your passion is, you can do all of them.
Yeah, I remember I was in an audition with you. That's where we met. I was thinking about it today. I'm like, where did we met? And I remember, yes, I wanted to book the job, but also I was like, I want to be best friends with her. Because you were like on the side, like talking about your DJ this and that, and like exactly what you were saying. And I was like, see, you can do more than one thing and be successful.
Well, it's just so funny because like I remember you in the same capacity. I remember like, you know, it was one of my first jobs where I was kind of like facilitating, and like I was the ringleader. Like I'm typically used to just having a number on and showing up to the cattle calls for like MSA or, you know, go to, and just kind of like trying to like get noticed. And then this thing fell into my lap, which I definitely felt ready for, but at the same time I kind of felt like I was making it up as I went along. And I just remember kind of like coaching myself through before, being like, okay, like you gotta just like put on a face like you know what the hell you're doing, you know what I mean? Like, and I look back on that time and I didn't know what I was doing, but I just kind of leapt and did it. And I remember meeting you, Jel, too, because I just remember how, like, first of all, how talented you were, and then you booked the job, so you know that. But and just how like passionate and enthusiastic you were, and I just remember it being so refreshing because I was like constantly seeking out dance community. And as you guys both know, the dance community out here in LA can be a little bit daunting. It can be intimidating. And dance has always been intimidating for me. And I think that's part of the reason why I've always, you know, wanted to chase it and wanted to pursue it. Because it was such like a moving target. Every time you would achieve something, the target just keeps moving forward and propelling you forward. But I just remember having a hard time connecting with dancers that I actually wanted to hang out with outside of the auditions or outside of the rehearsals and studio.
Totally.
And then I met you, and I was like, oh, this is an example of someone that like not only is like killing it, but is also like making an approachable atmosphere. And is like, I was like, she's so warm and welcoming. And so yeah, that I can't believe that was so long ago. That must have been like 4 or 5 years ago. But yeah, I mean, like to speak on what you said, Pseudo, like I feel like we all moved to LA because we're all kind of like united by this commonality of just wanting to be creative, but it takes a couple years to figure out what exact outlet that's going to be. And it has been inspiring to slowly watch other dancers kind of stop wanting to be like pawns of other people's creations and like do their own stuff. And then with, you know, like all the social media outlets, it's just become easier than ever to do that.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I feel like when I was in my hometown and I was looking at LA and looking at dance from afar, I really wasn't just looking at the industry. I had no idea what that meant. Like, I didn't know what all of it like entailed. So when I got here, like when I was watching Ian and Brian and like those YouTube people who were creating content, so they weren't really the dancer that you were signing up for when you got here. They were like a different breed where they weren't really auditioning. They weren't really, you know, they were creating their own art, and they were in control of stuff. And obviously it was really hard, and it took a lot of work for them to get there, and they're pioneers of that. But like, I came here being like, that's what I fell in love with. And then just kind of being thrown into these big packed rooms, and every group of dancers was like, it was like high school, because everyone probably came here with the same attitude of like, no one believes in me, so I'm going to be super particular who I am cool with. And I looked at these like male dancers with their fucking hat brims down, and I was like, none of them want to talk to me, like, you know? And so it was kind of a like, whoa, like this is not what I was thinking it was going to be. So you either kind of keep going with exactly what you're doing, or you're like, how do I find what I was already excited about?
It's yeah, you're like, so it's such a disillusionment. Like when you get here, you just want to cut straight to like creating the Ian level content or like the Brian level content, and you don't really understand that you have to go like this and do all of these strange out of the box, you know, take these individualized routes that don't necessarily make sense when it's happening in real time, but only like, you know, retroactively can you discover, oh, I didn't book that job, so that I would then get discouraged about going to the cattle call, so then I would start choreographing on my own stuff or whatever it is. And I always like yeah, I just used to joke with Erica that we always felt like outliers in the sense that we literally couldn't keep up with some of the technicians that we were dancing with during our time during like conventions and stuff, and we just knew how we just really resonated with like not being the best. And so for me, like a lot of my creativity has sparked out of my weaknesses and how I couldn't do like 16 pirouettes, or like I wasn't getting, you know, noticed at NYCDA, like these things that used to really upset me. I kind of just like took it and ran with it and said, well, I'm not supposed to be a dancer for Rihanna. I'm not supposed to like book this, you know, ABC family ensemble track. Like I'm gonna do something that just caters a little bit more to my individuality and my strengths. And I think like everybody can kind of find some inspiration from their weaknesses and from their failures. I feel like that's the most important thing to do in the industry, is really hone in on what your individuality is and what your weaknesses are. And that's what like Spaced really was birthed from, is like us realizing our strengths. We like to bring visions together. We like to bring people together. We don't necessarily need to choreograph or need to dance, but we want to be putting it all together and bringing the talented people together, you know, and bringing our vision to life. So yeah, that's definitely, I feel like, the most important thing to do in the industry, and you did it very well and are doing it. Likewise, seriously.
Yeah. I want to touch on your DJ career. So let's kind of shift into that realm. Just like how you got started and where you are now with it.
Yeah, I think it's been a long journey as far as like identity goes, and just kind of my voice, I feel like, has changed a lot over the past couple of years. So I started DJing officially, I would say, in like 2015, which feels like a late start to something that I really wanted to devote my entire life to. You know, I felt like, again, so behind, because I had committed my entire life up until that point to merely musical theater specifically, and you know, by proxy dance, but decided I really wanted to pursue music. So sort of all at once, you know, disenrolled from my musical theater BFA program in New York, moved to LA shortly thereafter, and tried to just teach myself how to DJ and produce. And just by sort of luck and circumstance, I fell into this electronic music community. I guess I just knew that I wanted to make music in some capacity. I just didn't understand what it meant to be a producer, and how a lot of times that producer fell hand in hand with DJ. I just knew that I was seeing artists and listening to artists and discovering artists that made music that made me really more inspired to dance than dancing made me inspired to dance. So I knew that I needed to follow that impulse. And then, yeah, again, like I moved to LA and I just kind of found myself in this electronic community. So it was easiest to sort of start there. And I haven't really branched out from electronic yet, but it's definitely on the horizon. And now it feels like, of course, I'll always be a DJ, and that is something that I like gave me my start with music. But I think the pandemic really took away and robbed me of all of the joys of DJing. And now that I'm just doing a lot of streams and like virtual festivals, I still, of course, love it, and I want to do it forever, don't get me wrong. But I'm just finding a lot more satisfaction and catharsis and joy in producing music, because there isn't that element of, you know, that kinetic energy you're getting from the crowd.
Yeah.
Pre-pandemic, I was, you know, DJing 3-4 nights a week at really great bars or clubs or private events or whatever it was. And I was really just kind of riding that, not to mention it was great, like, you know, supplementary income for me as a dancer, like being so used to scraping by. But now I can't help but feel like we keep saying when this pandemic is over or when, but it's, you know, the reality is it's our life. So even if it's just our life for another year or two, it's the now, it's the reality. So I'm trying to adjust and cater my, you know, artistry, you know, to that. Yeah. So I feel like I'm not that my DJing days are behind me, but that I'm really, rather that I'm grateful for, you know, the 3-4 years that I had in LA when I felt like it was really like rocking, you know, like I was getting to do all these fun gigs. I think we all are gonna reminisce on pre-COVID and think like, wow, that was the time. Yeah. You know what I mean? That was the prime LA scene, like, you know, but yeah, I'm just excited about sort of stepping into myself as an artist more, whether that is, you know, singing on more of my tracks or just focusing more on producing, and instead of sparingly putting out original music, putting out music more consistently, which I know like is something that you've been doing too, and that has been really inspiring to watch, you know.
Thank you.
I think that you're also finding that although you're doing spaced, you're not willing to compromise like your pseudo project, and that's always going to kind of, not that one is prioritized over the other, but you're always going to make sure that you're, you know, nurturing both. Yeah. And that you can do both, and you don't have to just focus on having your production company. You can also be an artist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what this pandemic really, I felt like, was for Joe and I, is like spaced is kind of like the same for a lot of other people, where it's like we're already super thankful and lucky that our job is something that we love, and it's art, and it's like we get to express ourselves, and we're our own bosses, and all this stuff is already a dream. So then sometimes we felt like it's working and it has this crazy energy, and so we need to put all our energy into it and like keep running the wheel, which is true. And it was smart that we did it for 3 years. But when everything stopped and we had all this extra time, we realized like we do have, again, these other passions like that are huge, that are just as big as directing. And at the same exact time, Jel like is like, okay, I've talked about this clothing brand like Valente since I was like 15, and she's like had it in her head, and then I was like, I've made music kind of hobby like and not had the confidence to do it, and like I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna just like take mushrooms and try and write a song, and then fucking it just happened because we had the time to be like, right, exactly, like it's now, it's not, we can't wait for the world to start up again, we can't wait for all these things, like we have the ability to like really dive into that. So having the space and the time to really think about what you love and what makes you happy allowed for a lot of people, I think, to just like take that leap again. I always talk about that, is we all took the leap to pursue the passion in the first place, whatever it was to start, then to move across the country, crazy leap, and then to stay here and like be broke and do all the hard work, and then to go like, all right, I'm gonna do a different thing is like fucking nuts. Like that's the craziest shit. Happening. Yeah.
That's what's insane is you think that there is one breakthrough, and then you think that I mean I thought that I was really doing something when I dropped out of school and moved to LA. I was like, this is gonna be the thing I look back on, that was the turning point. You know, this is gonna be something that I look back on and I think, wow, I can't believe I had the gall to do that. And now to think that I'm attempting to reinvent myself multiple times throughout even just the last 6 months. Like it's crazy. And I think it's a product of environment. It's a product of who you surround yourself with. Cause I know like, even just like you two, keeping like in touch and just like cultivating that community can just inspire you to the point where it really forces you to make a change and to be super introspective. I mean, like that's introspection has been everything from 2020. Yeah. And like I feel like I'm surrounded by so many people that are blowing my mind with what they're able to accomplish. I feel like, I don't know if you guys are experiencing this, but I feel like I've been watching people change their lives. Yeah. And not only planting the seeds to change their lives, but with certain people that I'm surrounded by, I'm watching it actually hit action. Yeah. Things are really moving, and I would love that for myself, you know? So I think we constantly have to ask ourselves, like, are we settling? And, you know, are we going to have any regrets? And even if I'm going to be shit at writing a song, I'm going to just write one.
Yeah.
You know, and
like it's not too late to start. That I feel like a lot of people realize that in 2020.
It's not too late. That's
and it's like if you don't start now, like when the hell are you going to start? So when everyone had this setback of, okay, I'm with myself right now, people put into motion all the things that they wanted to do because they realize also life's very short with the COVID stuff and scares.
Dua Lipa once said, "Don't start now," you know, and she said it best. But no, I always have that hang up of, oh my gosh, I'm in my mid-20s. It's too late. It's too late to start another trade. It's too late to have another passion or another, you know, sort of lane in or sector of art. But it's really not. I mean, some people make their best art, their magnum opus when they're 55. So
exactly.
Yeah, I think just staying on the train is key.
2 Chainz got signed when he was 32.
Damn.
That's when everyone found out about 2 Chainz.
Wow,
32.
that's crazy.
I didn't even
That's
think
what I
he
always
was
think
32
about.
now.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I always think about that. And also, like, I remember early in my dance career when I would talk to Vinny, shout out Vinny, about being like, fuck, like there's all these 9-year-olds who are just crazy, like so fucking
Literally
good.
9.
And I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm so late. These kids are killing it. And he was like, dude, people need 9-year-olds and they need 25-year-olds and they need 84-year-olds. Like, and that's just like with dance, but it's true with even everything. Age is so like doesn't fucking
Age
matter.
is over.
It's
Age
bullshit.
is over.
Yeah, it's bullshit. It doesn't matter. Like if something's good and people resonate with it, then they're not gonna be like, oh, he's 32. Nah, fuck this. I'm not gonna participate. No, like they don't give a shit. If anything, people are like, oh, he's whatever age. They're like pumped about it because there's so many people your age. Like a 25-year-old would way rather connect with another 25-year-old than a 17-year-old on TikTok. Like it just yeah. So I think that's exciting.
I sometimes feel really paralyzed by the youth. Like sometimes I'm on Instagram or TikTok and I'm looking at literal 9-year-olds and I'm like, what's the point of me continuing? This is the all time. This is peak skill. But then what they don't tell you is then sometimes that 9-year-old gets burnt out and they're 16 and they're in finance, and that's not better or worse. It's just like
their own path.
You never know if things are gonna last. So to just be hung up by someone who you're just so, you know, I try to translate like jealousy or envy into just like a roadmap for what that's telling me. Oh, I'm feeling salty about this 9-year-old that's like doing flares and windmills, and I've been trying to do a windmills for a decade. Like, okay, well, what is that telling me? Maybe I need to work on my upper body strength so that that's something I can achieve, you know? And it's so true. Yeah, like age is over, party. You heard it here first. Gender is over. Age is dead. And I think just like staying focused, staying in your own lane, and just focusing on how you can compete with the last version of yourself. Sounds really redundant and cheesy, but it's something that like I need to remind myself all the
quote.
Yeah.
I'm gonna remember and mark it.
Yeah. So what do you feel? Can you talk a bit about your penny pad project?
Yeah. So this is so funny because I was just talking about this recently for an interview for the last EP that I dropped. And that was really just an exploration. It was sort of an experiment of how we can, you know, fuck with making dance a more generative force as opposed to a reactive force. And it just became a project that Kobe and I, shout out Kobe, really wanted to explore. And then it's just funny because people always come back to this and always ask me to talk about it, or they want to know what the future is, and I'm like, spoiler alert, that was it. Like, we're not trying to get this to the shelves. We're not trying to turn this into any technology that we want to patent. I mean, that was definitely something we considered at the time because it was getting some buzz and it was really making some other opportunities arise. But that was just something that we really wanted to see through, and like I'm so thankful to have had Kobe's support and intellect to make that happen for us. We spent a lot of time in the studio together working on it, and it definitely really inspired and informed my process of creating the last EP that I made. And so for that, I'm super grateful. And I'm working on a second EP right now where I'm really like utilizing the penny pad less and less, because I think I needed the penny pad as a crutch because I didn't really know how to produce music. So it was just easier for me to access rhythm and even melody just using my feet, because I could memorize sequences easier than I could punch in MIDI on a keyboard. But now that I have experience creating music from scratch, it is more efficient to just use your fingers.
Yeah.
But it was a really cool experiment.
And it was a conversation starter too. I feel like it made people think about how dance and music and producing is connected as well, you know.
Totally. And and it really opened some doors. But it's something that I reflect on, you know, really fondly, and I would love to continue to have that curiosity and to create, you know, projects that involve music and tech in the future in different ways. Like with this second EP, I'm moving away from dance a little bit, because I feel like as much as it's been a really awesome boundary, it's also kind of pigeonholed me in a way. And so I think we don't always have to include like all sides of us in things that we do, because how tempting would it be for you to have, like, because I loved all the visual content that you've been releasing, and same with Valente. Like, how tempting would it have been for it just to be like fierce choreography or like crazy freestyling? Like, I know you did incorporate dance for the like trailer for the drop.
Yeah.
And of course, like, dance is always just going to be part of like your movement vocabulary. But how tempting would it be to just like hire all your dope dancer friends and to be like, let's do a combo? But you have to kind of like practice some restraint with that, because you're dropping a clothing line and you're writing music for a reason, because it's not dance.
Yeah.
I just feel like I always fall a victim to having to feel like I need to include dance in everything that I do, and I'm trying to release that.
That's awesome. When's your next EP? Do you have a tentative date?
Yeah, so I don't have a tentative release date, but I know that I'm recording all the vocals in February. I'm actually going out to Albuquerque to do that, because my engineer is out there, and I really just only trust him to record those vocals. So I'm just going to go there for a week. We're going to do like a little retreat, stay at an Airbnb. So if everything goes well, hopefully it'll be released in the spring.
And what kind of, like you said, you're kind of shifting from dance, which some people might not know is literally a sound. Like, dance, when you think of it like an electronic and DJing and producing, like, it has this like specific rhythm pattern. It has like such a certain vibe. So I'm actually super interested and curious of like what the next stuff is going to sound like. So if you have any little secrets or like what you're kind of going for.
So like sonically, it's not going to be as pigeonholed into the house and disco and techno realm as the last project was, which is how I would classify it. I mean, each of those tracks was so specifically like dropped you off in a world that the base, like the foundation of each of the songs were house, but then one of the songs had like, you know, like a banjee, like ball type of texture, and another one had like a break beat, you know, like 80s, you know, like Stone's Throw type of sound, and then another one had more of a electro swing sound. So it was all encapsulated in house, but each track kind of paid homage to a different style of dance, so that kind of made it textured and a little bit more specific. But with this project, because I always start with the context, because that's always easiest for me to access, it's all about duality, and I'm a Libra, so I'm very big on duality, and a lot of the things that make me who I am are about like just dichotomy and duality, like always wanting both, east and west, you know, always just kind of yin and yang. Like it's I know this just sounds really vague, but that's kind of where I'm taking the inspiration from. So naturally, you're going to hear that reflected in the music. It's going to be, you know, highs and lows, very just opposing factors. So we're going to, you know, change it up as far as like speed and tempo goes. We're also going to change it up as far as, you know, melodic lines go, and like the leads are going to just oppose drastically from the, you know, lower frequency sounds like the bass or the sub. So I know that sounds really
no, it sounds awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait.
And I'm like tempted to like, I'm like, well, I could hum you some shit. But I'm not gonna do that.
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
That costs extra. Just kidding. But no, so sounds vague, but I remember when I was trying to explain MIDI in motion to people, it was also really vague. So I think you just need to, once I get it, once everything is kind of recorded and frozen, then I'll totally be sending you guys some shit. But
do some visuals for you.
yeah, of course. Oh, I mean, 100%. Actually, I was just like kind of writing out what the plan is going to be for the rollout, and we did the one for A Dancer's World, which I'm so stoked on, but for this release, I definitely want to do at least 2 to 3. So I'll be hitting you guys
Hell
up.
yeah. Hell yeah. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break and then come back, and we have some maybe a little bit more lighthearted questions, silly questions to ask you.
Yay!
Give me the sunshine, give me a dew.
So we're gonna do a question that we ask everybody. If you were a cartoon character, who would you be and why?
What comes to mind first is SpongeBob,
Hell yeah.
because I was such a diehard fan of SpongeBob. I was in the official SpongeBob fan club, which meant that every month they would send me merch.
Wow.
And I think like my mom was like paying for me to be in this fan club because I was obsessed, and bless her heart, she was making it sound like, you know, oh, like they're sending you stuff because they know you're such a fan, but like you actually have to subscribe. And I don't know, not that I even feel like SpongeBob and I have a similar essence. I just really connect with SpongeBob, and I feel like they are such an entity and just so like energetic, and I just really strive to have that amount of energy at all times.
I love it. That's probably the fastest someone's answered too. Usually people are like, fuck, you just ruined my day. We're like, don't think too hard.
SpongeBob has been said, or in the SpongeBob world.
Universe, sure.
Bane said live around SpongeBob.
Sandy's a vibe too. Sandy's
Someone
a definite
said
vibe.
my leg guy. The
My
guy who
leg.
goes, my leg. And I was like, that is some
So
meta
deep.
shit.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the TikTok teens because they might have exposure to SpongeBob, but they did not get to experience it in real time. And there is nothing more iconic than the Krusty Krab pizza. That
Krusty
episode,
Krab pizza
I probably
is the
could
pizza
I
you
probably
and
could
me.
recreate it by myself.
I'd love to see that.
The Krusty Krab at the
Yes.
end. Oh, yeah. Legendary. I love it.
It's so musical. It was so musical. And Phineas and Ferb was also fire, but that was, of course, years later. So
Wait,
yeah.
I feel like Joe has a similar story to like your mom
Yeah,
telling
no,
you.
that's what I was gonna say. My mom, like, I didn't find this out until later on in my life that she was doing this, but I was obsessed with Spice Girls. Like, that was like my shit. And they would
Totally.
send me merch, and I thought it was them. And like they would send signed copies, and I was like, oh my god. And then later on, and then my mom was like, I'm making them a cake because she owned a bakery, and so she would like send them a cake, and I'm like, where did that go? Like,
Well,
and it wasn't until later that I was like, Mom, you were just doing that. Like, they weren't sending me anything.
Parents, oh God bless
Never
them.
know, right?
Here's a deep cut question for you then, because as an avid Spice Girls stan, do you remember the Spice Girls lollipops? They were blow pops. They weren't actually blow pops, but they had gum inside, and they were wrapped in these like red wrapper with the white stripe, and they came in like jumbles, like packs of 5.
Maybe they never made it to Canada.
That's probably true.
I'm like, I would have
I
had
have
those.
distinct memories of the Spice Girls lollipops
That's so funny.
that I would snack on during day camp.
That's crazy.
At the pool
Yeah,
club.
I wish. I never got to experience that.
Well,
Now life's
we'll have to look it up
ruined.
on
Yeah.
Etsy or something. Yeah, God.
One thing that I don't think about often, as in I don't think I've ever thought about it, I never really had a thing that I thought was real that wasn't, other than maybe God.
Like a Santa Claus.
Or the God that I was told originally. But
LOL.
we don't need to get into religion. We already have a
Big
whole
same.
podcast on that. But I didn't have Santa Claus. Like my parents didn't do Santa Claus because Christmas was
Really?
Jesus' birthday. Like Santa Claus, anything mystical or
No
anything
Saint
else.
Nick. I mean, I guess it comes from territory.
Nothing. No, nothing. No,
Easter Bunny?
No, it wasn't anything that was. It was like yeah, put on the ears or like to Tooth Fairy, but it was always like, but those are just like for fun. It never was like I don't remember having anything growing up that was like, yeah, I know.
Or maybe
I
it
don't.
prepared you.
I guess so. No
Adequately for
letdowns, I
life.
guess. But yeah, I never.
Magic, you know?
Oh,
Yeah.
I had a Santa.
Hopefully no kids are watching.
I had like the.
Santa's not real.
Sorry, Susan. Santa's not real.
Susan definitely sounds like
Now
a
go do your
40-year-old.
chores. Little Susie.
Little Susie.
Go do your chores. No, but I had like a Santa psychotic break. Like when I found out that Santa wasn't real. And I knew that Santa wasn't real, but I was so upset at my parents for not continuing the fantasy that I broke down and I was like, I'm leaving cookies out for Santa anyway. And I was like,
I can just picture you, young Penny.
yeah, I was like not 5. I was like 9.
And she's like,
or
this was
something.
last year.
This was on my 25th
Oh
birthday.
my God.
No, but oh god, that's so weird though that you never had that thing.
The magic.
Yeah, I guess
But
it. Yeah.
my parents are lovely. They're the most lovely people in the world.
Oh, this always happens.
They are. They're just a little. They had a little shield over their eyes, but they are the reason I am who I am today.
I
Love you,
it.
Pop. Love you, Mama.
Oh, very cute. Very cute.
All right, I know we already talked about your EP, but is there anything else that's coming up that you want to tell the world? This is your time.
Yeah, well, there's a couple things like for other artists that I'm working on, which you guys know how that goes. It's like you're on their timeline and you're also kind of on their schedule as far as like, well, until this teaser gets released, you know. So I guess what I'll say is there's 2 artists that I'm working with right now that I'm kind of doing some stuff on retainer with that I'm really excited about, and we'll have a couple of visuals that are coming together in the next hopefully couple of weeks, but you know how it is, could be months, but that's kind of what's presumed. And then just putting all the energy into the second EP. I think the first project, the cohesive project that I released, the EP, took me a long time to like finish and feel confident about and feel like it was ready to be put out into the universe as my debut project. I felt like there was a lot of pressure on that. So it took me a long time to put together, but this piece that's kind of assembling itself in a more efficient way now that I know how to do it, I'm hoping that this will be released within like 6 months of its creation and of it being conceived. So because I'm really trying to get it out as fast as possible and just kind of work as efficiently as possible this time around, I'm just kind of really having some tunnel vision and just putting all my eggs into that so I can get that out. So then we can like focus on the visuals, which is one of my favorite parts. Not that I'm rushing through this at all, but I'm just trying to be a little bit more crafty about how I can be writing one song, getting the other one mixed, so that like things kind of stack and I'm not waiting. Because you know when you're done with a project and then it's in someone else's hands to like help you with the artwork or to approve, or you know you have the whole project delivered to the label and the label's like, all right, well, we don't have a free release date until 6 months from now. And you're like, okay, so now what am I going to do for these 6 months? I feel like I can't work on the next project because I'm still, my brain is still in the world of this project.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to like cut some corners and make things, be smart about how I'm kind of arranging things.
That's amazing. Well, we will look forward to it, and we are so excited about it and your whole career.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, and then again, it's always fun to do conversations with people that we have a history with and we've been, growing alongside. And it's just a super exciting time, and I feel like we're all on a similar wavelength. So this conversation was inspiring, and I'm ready to take the day on. So thank you for coming on.
Likewise, seriously, you guys inspire me so much, more than you guys know. And we go so far back.
I know.
It's crazy and it's amazing. So thank you so much for having me, guys.
Of course.
So
thank you for coming on.
And
let us know where the audience can find you, your socials, anything.
Yeah, I am at PENNYWILD Music on all social platforms, and PENNYWILD on Spotify, SoundCloud, Amazon Music, Apple Music, and what have you. I'm trying to get more consistent about putting all my material on YouTube as well. So I believe I'm at PENNYWILD there, but I could be PENNYWILD Music. I don't know. You're gonna have to let me know.
PENNYWILD. Well, thank you so much. We love you. Have a beautiful day, and you have to end with our space pod.
Love you guys.
Wait, what? Just Space Pod. And this is Pseudo. That's gonna come in. That comes in after.
I'm just kidding. But thank you so much. We love you. Thank you guys
Love
for
you
watching.
guys.
Peace
Thanks.
out.
We are on the automatic sequence. 5, 4, 3, 2,
I'm Pseudo.
1.
And this is Space Pod.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.